Welcome back to this week's episode of Podiatry Market. With me, as usual, is my good friend, Big Jim Mac, also known as Jim McDannald. Jimmy boy, how you doing?
Tyson, I'm doing well. It's a hot summer here, but a lot of stuff going on. The kids are out of school, so a little bit of Mr. Mom time, but enjoying getting outside and doing some activities with the kids.
Okay, I need to laugh. What is your hot summer? What temperature are you talking about when you say hot summer? Give us Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so in Celsius today it was 34. So that's
okay,
around
that's fair enough. That's
low
good.
90s Fahrenheit, I think.
Okay, that is pretty warm. Even for Cairns, 34 is a nice day.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in Tasmania, half the population died at 34 degrees. They wouldn't cope. Just would not cope with that at all.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. What are we talking about today? Well, actually, I know what we're talking about today. I love this topic.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about pickleball and the opportunity that you have with patients that are getting injured playing Australia, the UK, and America's fastest growing sport.
It is. When you mentioned you're going to be talking about this, I went, oh, I better go because you mentioned fastest growing sport in America. And I knew in the UK they were saying it had grown really quickly. So I checked Australia as well. And yep, booming, absolutely booming over here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I mentioned, the kids being out of school and, thought, at 10 o'clock on a Monday, I would go take them to a court and we could play a little bit. We, during our spring break, we went down to California and it was a really fun time. They had a bunch of courts and really there was no one on the courts except for us when we were playing. So I thought, just going to go over to the local pickleball. There's I think 8 different courts at this one place and 8 at another place. Thought, it's 10 o'clock on a Monday. Not going to be an issue. Just go out there and start playing. And we get to the first place and all the courts are completely filled up and there's about 30 people outside waiting to jump onto the court to kind of who's got next. So I was a little disappointed with that. So we decided to drive another 10 miles away and check out the place in kind of the neighboring community. Same thing, except there's about 80 people waiting to play and chairs sitting out where it was like a retired individual social event party on a Monday at 10 a.m. So it just kind of made me think, and I've seen some podiatrists talk about this, and obviously I think one of the major medical equipment suppliers in the U.S. actually helps sponsor the professional pickleball league here, but it just kind of reminded me that there is an opportunity here, and there's a way to kind of today we're going to talk a little bit about what is that opportunity, what does it mean in numbers, and then what are some ways to capitalize on this kind of growing trend and this popularity that's growing within the sport of pickleball.
I think it's really interesting, and I think it's great that we've brought this up because it just reminds podiatrists to be aware of trends, things that are happening. Keep your eye out. Listen to your patients. What are they? This is why you ask your patients questions. What are you doing on the weekend? And you start noticing people mention pickleball, and try and tap into something that is actually a growing sport. If nobody else in your area is even thinking about it.
No, absolutely. And I think it's if you're kind of there's certain sports that are dying or not as popular, but this is a sport that's just kind of booming. So you may have patients come into the practice with injury. So it's important at least to kind of know some of the basics. For example, if you're been living under a rock and you don't know what pickleball is, I've been playing it basically since I was in high school.
Has it been around that long?
Yeah, so I mean that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. Yeah,
that's 35? Is it? Yeah, around 35 years. It's been around that long. I think longer than that. And their marketing initially for pickleball was they would go to these teacher conferences, usually physical education conferences, and they would try to show. They would set up courts where these places were at and have the PE teachers and the teachers learn about pickleball. So kids will learn about it, playing it in high school because it is a pretty easy thing to set up in a gymnasium or you can set it at multiple courts onto a tennis court. So, basically it's a wooden paddle or, they have these carbon fiber or plastic paddles now with basically what we call in the US, a wiffle ball. You're playing on the same dimensions as a badminton court as opposed to a big tennis court, and a little bit of a lower net than a tennis net. So, it is one of those things, and you see a lot of people playing doubles as well. So it's not just not a lot of like 1v1, but a lot of 2v2. So it can be kind of a social opportunity and game to play. But it's like what we talked about, it's kind of grown in popularity to the point where I think in 2024, the stats I read that 19.8 million Americans played pickleball that year. And that was like almost a 50% jump versus 2023. And then over the last 3 years, they've seen a surge of like over 311% of people participating, making this the fastest growing sport in the US. And like you mentioned, Tyson, to me before we got on the show, that it's super popular in the UK and Australia as well.
Yeah, well, it was funny when I was in the UK in February. Jonathan Small, that I stayed with, he said, "Oh, we're playing pickleball on Friday night. Are you up for it?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I'm up for any challenge." "Have you played before?" "No." And I went in with the mindset that just show me what to do and I will pick it up pretty quick. And I think we ended up playing 7 games. It was all doubles too. Like you mentioned, it was 2-on-2. And I think we won 3 games, lost 4 games, which I was really disappointed with because I'm extremely competitive. But Jonathan's son, his plan is to become a pickleball coach because it's one of the fastest growing sports going around. And I've also got friends that live in Bali now, and yeah, they're playing pickleball a couple of times a week over there.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's picked up. Like I mentioned, I think somewhere like 1 in 5 Americans have tried pickleball. Like I think the number I saw was 48.3 million adults have at least tried it once. Sometime in their life. So that's interesting. The game is young and active. The average player, the stats I saw was 34.8 years old. And 70% of them are monthly players are between 18 and 44. So, these are kind of young, healthy people. But these type of stop and start sports can lead to a lot of foot and ankle related stuff. So it is a huge opportunity, and the infrastructure is taking off as well, right? They usually play on these are hard surfaces, usually like
Yeah.
tennis courts, sometimes on hardwood floors, like on basketball courts, or that are kind of converted, or badminton courts. But somewhere in the U.S. right now, there's about 68,000 pickleball courts, and there's about 130 new locations that are popping up every month. One of the people I used to coach at McGill for cross country, her husband has like an indoor pickleball business now in Montreal. So it's like, it's just a really still it's a rapidly growing sport. So I think there's some huge opportunities here because it is rapidly expanding. These are motivated, kind of relatively young athletic population. This is a great demographic for, marketing your services and being seen to be the expert to help people take care of whatever foot and ankle injuries they might, that might occur during their matches. When you have this sheer number of people playing, a small percentage of people are going to get injured, and that's not an insignificant number of potential
Mm.
patients that come into your practice.
Well, I think it's one of those things that if you don't know anything about pickleball, you're listening to us talk, you become, what is this pickleball game? Go and read up on it, watch some videos on it. I think if you can understand it and be able to use their terminology in the kitchen, or not in the kitchen, which is still I find weird, but it's, I think, investigate the game, whether you play it or not, but understand the game. And therefore, as you start noticing patients coming with it, you can talk to them on their level and understand what it is they're doing. Because it is a lot of, like when I was playing, a lot of really short stop, start, fast, changing angles very quickly. And I will admit, I think we played, like I said, 7 games, and I was knackered by the end of it all. And yeah, and my ankles were actually sore because it was something I had not done before.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It is an attractive sport, but some people will jump into it gung ho, right? And that's where you're going to get those overuse injuries. And there's a lot of different kind of foot and ankle problems that can be caused, right? So, like you mentioned, there's kind of these like you're kind of cutting laterally and medially, and these can lead to ankle sprains. Sometimes if you haven't been, stretching out properly before or after the matches, it can lead to some peroneal tendon injuries, or
Oh,
or
yeah.
or some tendonitis and those types of things. The start is kind of stop start overload. Maybe you were doing more kind of sedentary stuff. This could lead to like plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendon issues, whether it be tendinopathy or potentially Achilles ruptures. These hard court surfaces, can cause a lot of pounding. If you're just so obsessed that you just go every day for a few weeks, maybe it could lead to stress fractures or metatarsalgia. So there's a lot of different kind of service lines that you might kind of introduce or might come into your practice, whether it be turf toe or kind of metatarsal phalangeal joint sprains. These are types of things that 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 the players are going to experience. And we're the experts. Us podiatrists are the people that they will come and see if they know that we treat these types of things.
I just think if you've ever dealt with tennis players, whatever they've had come in, just times it by 10, and that's probably what you're going to get with pickleball. Because of that, they are sharp, short, fast games as well. I'm not quite sure when you've played, but when I was playing in the UK, I think it was the first one to 11 or first one to 21 or something.
Right.
So they were really quick games, and there wasn't a lot of you finish that side and then you talk amongst yourselves. It was sort of like bang, you had to get straight on it. There wasn't a lot of time to rest. And what I noticed with the age groups that were playing, there were people that were quite younger, 17, 18, 19, that age. And then there were a lot of other people that were 50s and 60s. There might have been a couple a little bit older, or they've just had a bad life. And and they're playing against each other because it was just a competition where they just randomly play each other. And I think you're going to see a lot more injuries probably in that older bracket, even like my age group, where you forget, if you haven't done that type of activity for a while, you're going to get sore.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Like when I went on Monday morning at 10 a.m., it was a combination of kids out of school from college and then kind of the more retired set, right? So, those folks maybe aren't as into warming up and the kind of like the stretching and the things that will kind of what we call prehab or preventative measures to kind of stop those things from happening. So these are kind of key, kind of ideal patients for your practice if you're looking to kind of grow something in sports medicine.
Well, I looked at the court and just thought, oh yeah, it's like a small tennis court, a big table tennis table. So I'm thinking, this is not going to put a lot of stress on my body. So my warm-up was pretty much just to walk out there. Let's just see what happens. There was no warm-up. And majority of the other people, they were hitting the ball to each other and just sort of warming up a little bit. But I don't think a lot of people warmed up as much as what they probably needed.
Yeah.
And
I think it can be,
yeah. But in Cairns, we've got a court here in Cairns. I think it's outdoors though. I haven't been to the one here, but
Sure.
It's also gotten extremely popular.
I think it can be tricky as well because, if there's people waiting on the court, right? Like, and there's people watching and waiting for their turn and such, that doesn't lead itself to like a nice slow warm up or a chance to kind of like ease into things. You kind of got to
No.
get things going in a way. So I hear you with the lack of warm up.
Well, it reminds me of 10-pin bowling. Like in 10-pin bowling, you don't get much. You don't actually get a lot of time to go and practice. You turn up, here's your lane, you're going to get started. So you have to just go out there and just get started, because when you're playing, there's other people that are waiting to actually take the lane after you.
Absolutely.
It explains why I don't do 10-pin bowling. So how can people get involved?
Yeah, so I think one huge opportunity is kind of position your clinic as the go-to, treatment for pickleball injuries or a resource about how to prevent these things from happening. So you can kind of launch something on your website, whether it be a pickleball injuries webpage or a blog about ways to warm up before, if you're waiting off the court, some ways to warm up to hopefully avoid some foot and ankle related issues. But whether it be some dedicated pages on the site or some blog posts, it's a great way to rank for these things. So I'm sure that when people get injure themselves, they're going to search, pickleball foot injury name of town or something, or podiatrist pickleball or something. So, you want to have that kind of organic search traffic coming your way. So if you have pages built on your website or blogs written about it, that's a huge opportunity. You really want to kind of highlight your experience in sports medicine. You've treated tennis players in the past, or maybe you have some relationships with some of the different clubs, just letting them know that, you are kind of a known expert in that area. You can also, when you're writing out these pages, like give people a general sense of like, if you have plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendonitis, what is the kind of return to play timelines, or some things they can do maybe on their own that it's not necessarily medical advice, but just some stuff they can try over the counter before they come and see you. Sometimes you can have downloadable things. Like I said, giving them a warm-up routine. Maybe there's like some footwear lists or checklists that they should be looking at, and maybe, the best shoes for pickleball. That might be a great way for you to kind of get your name out there and kind of be top of mind when people, even before people injure themselves, to be associated with that group and with that, kind of top of mind awareness. When they do get injured, you're seen as a person to come to.
And I even think knowing how many people are playing it, like you said, having information on your website, because people are going to be searching for this. They've had an injury, they're going to search for it. I had a problem the other day where I wasn't sure what was going on. So I went straight to Google and just put in what my symptoms were, what was happening. And all of a sudden I got this couple of things I read through and, okay, that's the exact problem. That's exactly what it is. Dug into a little bit deeper. So people are going to do the same thing with pickleball. But I think another idea too is if there is a pickleball group in your area, go down there, find out who's organising it. Do they have competitions? Can you sponsor the club? Because if you can get your podiatry business name on the court or around the court or sponsoring the competitions that they have, weekly or monthly, you will get known as the pickleball podiatrist. It could be worse things to be called.
No, absolutely. There's a lot worse things to be called. But I think that's a great point, and that kind of dovetails into my next point is that, there's a huge opportunities for kind of community and courtside outreach and networking. So whether it's sponsoring leagues, maybe it's, working with the park district or whoever sets up these courts, maybe it's a private business, showing kind of some on-court, advertising or, having some screening days potentially for a club or a business, or talking with the local park district about trying to find ways to help them. But you can also kind of host some feet first for pickleball or some workshops at rec centers to make sure that people are aware what these injuries can be. And then like you talked about as well, whether it be a club, a teaching pro, a specialty shoe shop, or people kind of wherever pickleball players are kind of getting information and gear and those kind of things, building strong relationships with those businesses, coaches, and clubs can lead to a significant amount of referrals and kind of building trust over time that you are that podiatrist who can help take care of those foot and ankle related injuries that they may pick up when they're playing.
Do you know of any specific pickleball shoes at the moment? I'm not aware. I haven't really looked into that deep.
I mean, my gut says they're kind of like basically like tennis shoes. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
it's been a long time. I was a huge Andre Agassi fan growing up, so I had a couple pairs of Nike Agassi shoes. But honestly, I haven't really looked to see what's available out there more recently. But I'm sure someone is marketing their shoes as like the top shoes for pickleball. But based off the kind of the surfaces they play on, I would assume it's pretty similar to like regular kind of competitive tennis shoes.
Okay. So what else should everyone be doing?
Yeah, besides the kind of like the community and courtside outreach, I think it can be really helpful to obviously sprinkle in some digital tactics to capture search and some social attention. So, for example, do you have pages that are going to rank well for things like pickleball ankle sprain treatment name of city, right? Like you need to have some pages that will help attract those people searching for terms like that. Maybe you have some paid ads, around specific areas that are maybe has a court, maybe you have there's a court in that area and maybe it's a 5 mile radius or something. But if someone injures themselves and searches looking for an urgent care appointment, or we treat say pickleball injuries same day or within 24 hours, that can be a great way to differentiate yourself from somebody. People don't want to wait a week. They don't want to go to ERs either necessarily. So if you're a resource and a great way for them to be seen quickly, that can be a good way of doing it. If you have a Facebook page or an Instagram page, showing some demos or showing some of the warm ups or the injuries, the way you treat folks. Paid social can also be a way to raise awareness that you do treat these injuries. There's also some great targeting that can be done on things like Facebook and Instagram. If people like a certain pickleball club or a certain pickleball player or the sport itself, it can be a way to make sure that you're targeting those folks with those either visual ads or video ads, to really show them that you are kind of top of mind when they do have those injuries. And then also just prompting reviews, getting mentioned by patients, how you get them back on the court. When you do have those patients that come and have good experiences in your clinic and can get back on court, kind of hitting them up for those reviews. And they do mention, pickleball, or, that they had a great experience with you. Those keywords are going to translate into better search traffic for your website and for you, and lead to more patients down the line that have these types of injuries.
Yeah, when you were mentioning about videos, I'm thinking for podiatrists. Out of the 48 million people that in America who have tried it, there has to be a couple of podiatrists in there as well. Or you'd have to know somebody who plays pickleball. So I think it'd be great for your website to go down there with somebody that you know and film them actually playing and do some close-up shots of their feet going through these certain movements and then relating what type of injuries could actually connect with that movement that they just did. And it'd be a lot of fun putting it all together as well.
No, I think people are really visual these days, right? They like short form video. They like to see what's happening. And the more you can kind of show it to them and not necessarily make them read through a wall of text, they're going to be very appreciative of that.
Well, especially I have this visual image in my head at the moment, sort of, that, somebody running up towards the net, what they're doing, and then them jutting, a lateral movement, and then diagonally coming back across it, but then all of a sudden going from one side to the other side. All those different movements could relate to different injuries. And
Absolutely.
if you can film that whole thing and then list the different types of injuries underneath as they're happening, or putting it on the screen if you want to be a little bit more fancy. And like you said, people are going to be searching for pickleball injuries. They're going to be searching for who treats foot injuries in your location. And if they happen to mention pickleball, if you're the one that has written about it, then you're going to be found.
Absolutely. You have to have that stuff on your site. You have to have that trust, whether it be in reviews or testimonials on your site, but it's just going to help you separate yourself from that generic, podiatry website that's trying to treat everything, that has no specifics about anything whatsoever. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity, especially the way that this sport is growing kind of across at least the English speaking parts of the world seem to be really taking to it. I haven't done a lot of other global research since we mostly focus on our American, Canadian, Australian, and UK client, our podcast listeners. But I think it's a huge opportunity, and just having some basic facts and learning about it is the first step. And then how do you take advantage, and how can you show that you are that expert to take care of that is a huge opportunity for any clinic to help grow a sports medicine type practice.
I actually feel like we're almost like inside trading here. It's almost like people listening to the stock market and we go, okay, we have a tip on a share that is going to go through the roof. You can buy it now at 50 cents. It's going to go to $3. How much money do you want to put on it? Guaranteed it's going to happen. I feel like that's what we're telling podiatrists right now. Is pickleball is growing. It's only going to grow more. It's an easy game to play. At the same time, it's a difficult game to play. It's not like golf, which is just a difficult game to play.
But I think there's a lot of opportunities for injury as well, right? So it's definitely something that leads to injury, and a large, when these many people are playing it, it's a huge opportunity to grow a business. So I think, we're giving them kind of the inside scoop, the inside stuff. But I think the people that are listening to this would be smart to kind of take that information and take action.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting the next time I talk to Jonathan Small for him to listen to this episode and then get his feedback on what he thought, because he is so involved in playing pickleball. He was the one that took me to pickleball.
Yeah.
I'd love to know if he's had many patients so far, because I know he absolutely loves playing it.
It's great having people in your corner, and people that can kind of help give that feedback about it, because there's it definitely is huge. It's growing to be a huge sport, and we'll see if that growth continues. But it looks like it's going that way.
Okay, well, Insider Jim, this is actually your name.
Don't
Insider
call
Jim.
that like the IRS or the SEC on me. I don't want to get any insider trading charges going on. So
yeah, when I go to America later on in the year, they go, "Oh, hang on, do you know Insider Jim?" Oh, we don't know the guy. No, this has been a great topic. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, Tyson.
Okay, I will talk to you next week.
All right, see you then.
Okay, see ya.
Bye now.